for those people who are like, I regret voting for him. I'm never voting Republican again. I'm never voting again, blah, blah. Well, then you support the country being invaded by 2 million illegal aliens per year. That's the Joe Biden administration's minimum. Under Kamala Harris, it would have gotten even worse. And then if they, take over in Congress, they're going to give them amnesty. And so you could support policies. You don't have to support everything that the man does, but the public are so fickle. When they get disappointed by something that he's done, they want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, whereas I do not regret voting for him. I still will vote for Republicans because even if we have this two-choice system, some people say it's a false paradigm, not entirely accurate regarding most things. It's a two-party system, and one party sucks. The other party is dog crap. And so if you did not vote, that's de facto a vote for Kamala Harris. So we would have had the Equality Act pass. We would have had transgenders in sports. We would have had 2 million illegal aliens more welcomed in per month. Unspeakable horrors that would have been unleashed upon this country. So no, I don't regret voting for him. Just because he's doing some things and being misled, it doesn't mean that we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But why is he attacking you and Tucker Carlson and all these people? Well, man does have the biggest ego probably in the history of the world. And as soon as any big name, especially was formerly associated with him, starts disagreeing with him, his ego can't tolerate that, and he has to lash out like a middle school kid on the playground. Just has to be a bully again. And
that's the thing. I'm not the most powerful man on earth like him, but when I make an important decision, I ask friends, confidants, family, even though I think I know the best. And a lot of times it makes me augment or change or maybe not do what I was going to do. Like, why doesn't he want that?
Well, and he may be blackmailed as well. The country may be blackmailed from a certain little foreign country that's supposedly our greatest ally. And Jared Kushner is his son-in-law, who he does rely on as one of his key advisors. And
the guy that owns 666 Park Avenue?
Yeah, who follows me on Twitter, on X, by the way, which is very odd. And he didn't just do a spam follow. So at one point I was on his radar, which is very strange. But President is spinning so many different plates that there's only so many hours and minutes in the day. And so that's why you have advisors. That's why as a leader, you have to delegate different responsibilities to different people. And so everybody's trying to clamor for his attention just for 30 seconds to try to get him to think their way, to do this, shine a light on this issue, do that. And so while he ultimately is responsible, he is infiltrated by a bunch of neocons, which, by the way, Mark Levin says that's an anti-Semitic slur if you just call somebody a neocon now. And Mark Levin, of course, big never Trumper. Ben Shapiro, big never Trumper. But now they're the new MAGA. So I think we should start calling these people neo-MAGA instead of neocons. They're the neo-MAGA.
I agree. They are the neo-Nazi MAGA. But yeah, I know you're the historian, so I got to ask you this question. You'll know 1 out of 100 might. We get the term neocons from who, from them, and where do they come from, Mark?
Well, it's an opposition to the paleo-conservatives, which is paleo meaning original or traditional conservatives, which is what conservatism used to be. So neocon means new, the new conservative. So they basically, these former liberals then hijacked the Republican Party, and a lot of them have certain ethnic groups and certain allegiances.
And they wrote books in the 50s and 60s saying, we're going to hijack it with William F. Buckley, and they were the literal adjuncts of Trotsky, who got kicked out of Russia. So that's why they're so anti-Russian, because they want to get back control. And that's why they're behind the Ukraine thing, literally again.
That's why they smear Pat Buchanan, one of the key paleo-conservatives who wrote books like 15 years ago warning about all the immigration issues called The Death of the West, The Suicide of a Superpower. You go back and read his books, and they're prophetic because he was trying to alert people about this. But the neocons hijacked there was 2 phases when they hijacked the party back in like the 1960s, and then again in the 1990s when we saw the Bush administration being led by a bunch of Skull and Bones members getting us involved in Iraq.
And now they're trying to do it again.
And it's just incredible because Fox News was the biggest cheerleader of the Iraq war, which everybody now agrees was based on total lie, total hoax, no weapons of mass destruction, the fabricated yellow cake uranium documents. But now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe what Fox News is saying, cheerleading another war in the same region.
And Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson, they're not real MAGA. I'm real MAGA, even though I'm an ever Trumper. The globalist deep state believes that on the evening of Thursday, April 30th, 2026, Thursday night, they will be successful shutting down InfoWars. Barring a miracle, it will happen. But the InfoWar lives in the hearts and minds of we the people. It's an idea, and it's bulletproof, and as V said, they can't kill it. So it's up to you to share the new URL, the destination of the tip of the spear in the fight against tyranny, AlexJonesLive.com, on your email list, your text message list, and everywhere, AlexJonesLive.com. And get the free app of the new show, Android or Apple, at AlexJonesApp.com. Download it right now and share those coordinates, Paul Revere's. You are unstoppable. That's your mission. If you choose to accept it, now take action now. All this is a societal wrecking ball to destroy any semblance of normality, any semblance of basic human biology that you see in the bees and you see in the birds. Imagine if somebody in a demon outfit showed up next to a baby giraffe and said, "Hi, I'm a demon. Be inclusive. Don't be mean to me. Let me wear demon horns and come up and look like a complete alien from another planet. Let a space alien." And by the way, this is a program. They dress up like space aliens all over the United States and all over the world. I told you, in horrible demon psychopath outfits that make Pennywise look beautiful. And they show up and they have their way with your children in demon outfits. I mean, if you've got men that look like 400-pound goblin demons with your children, there's nothing you won't put up with. There isn't a species on the planet that would let something that looks like a space alien get up close to its kids, but only in America does it happen, and I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it right now. I can't handle it more. Well, Mark sent that as his one video clip. I said, send any clips of you, and he sent a clip of me. So I guess we'll start off there. Media analyst, best-selling author of The War on Conservatives and so many other books, seen on Newsmax, OAN, InfoWars, Fox News, and more. At Mark Dice on X, YouTube, Mark Dice. So, Mark, wow, good to have you here in the twilight of the old InfoWars. The old war horse is full of arrows and everything else, but we got a whole new one we're climbing on the back of. But what a saga. Thanks for being here with us.
That's a clip that I sent them of you 10 years ago almost now, always ahead of the curve, decades, many years, ranting about the drag queen story hour when it was still politically incorrect to talk about that or push back against it. It was transphobic, it was homophobic, it was too fringe for the mainstream conservatives to start talking about. And so it's kind of bittersweet here. I also sent the crew a photo of us from 20 years ago when we met in Los Angeles. I don't know if they have it up. At the
I don't know. You'd already been a guest quite a bit, but I had that 9/11 symposium that was all over C-SPAN. Yeah, there we are.
So that's how long I've been a regular guest on the show, for 20 years. So it's sad that they're shutting you down, but at the same time, it shows how stupid and arrogant they are, because InfoWars is not going away. It doesn't matter what they try to do to the name. Alex Jones is InfoWars. It's like trying to rebrand one of the most like Kleenex. You don't rebrand a popular trademark name like Kleenex. Everybody knows what a Kleenex is. Everybody knows what InfoWars is. So whatever they think they're going to do to the website is going to utterly fail. And just like last time when they took the website off the air, they shut the doors, the URL was dead. Well, then you just log on to Rumble, you log on to Twitter, X, and there the Alex Jones Show was continuing right on. The app is back in the App Store. Rumble can live stream back.
And we have the new news site, AlexJonesLive.com. The radio stations are all eager to pick it up. We just flip a switch Thursday night at midnight. But still, it turns out the guys they're bringing over from Adult Swim are obsessed with pedophilia, Satan worship, things I can't even say on it. I didn't know this stuff used to air on Adult Swim. It turns out these guys, and then the head guy is the former Brian Stelter counterpart at MSNBC, censorship guy, and Bloomberg's financing this, and they literally pledged themselves to Satan on the air, and they say, oh, it's comedy. No, it's not comedy. They're obsessed with this.
As many of the elitists, all of the elitists in Hollywood are, but it's just a little nostalgia for the InfoWars listeners. I don't know how long your average listener has been listening, but I've been listening to you since 2003, 2004. And without Alex Jones, we wouldn't have known about the Bohemian Grove, or we wouldn't have had the footage. Alex Jones is responsible for the widespread knowledge of the Bohemian Grove, the Bilderberg Group, Operation Mockingbird, Operation Northwoods, false flag terrorist attacks. It's been incredible to see your career from when I started, which you already had been on the air for probably 6 or 7 years at that point, when you had to stream the Alex Jones show on Infowars.com, to then the advent of YouTube, which back then only had 15-minute video limits. So the show had to be uploaded in 7 or 10 different 15-minute segments with Alex Jones in a studio with a black curtain and a TV and a computer monitor. That's how long I've been listening to Infowars. And to see you go from that to being invited to Turning Point conferences, to being invited on Tucker Carlson's show as soon as he was free from Fox News. Obviously, he worked within the parameters when he was with Fox News to do what he could. But as we all know, there's certain limits that the host, as much as they want to or try, can't break through. So as soon as he gets independent, has Alex Jones on the viral memes all over social media. I still don't think you can even search for your name on TikTok. I think that's still one of the forbidden terms, just no search results whatsoever.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm most happy about, because I wasn't, the real OGs were General Parton and Ted Gunderson and, G. Edward Griffin and guys before them, go back to Senator Lindbergh and McCarthy. But I just happened to get successful on talk radio right away. And then all the new internet stuff. So we got the biggest audience ever, literally was the biggest English speaking thing for a few years. And then they thought if they could just shut me down or demonize me, that it would go away. Now, Megyn Kelly sounds like you and I. Tucker's more hardcore in some ways than us. I mean, it's like Elon Musk is like basically Alex Jones, but with a higher IQ. They've got a big problem. It's like that meme they put out, I'm coming out of a tunnel, and then there's all these clones of Alex Jones. But I was the biggest of the wave that came in the mid-90s. And now the wave now of awakening is, I'd say, 20 times bigger. And so it's just, they've got to see, like I told Vice when Trump had just won 10 years ago, I said, listen, you think taking me out, they're already trying, is going to be successful. I said, I was in the last wave. The waves coming are much bigger. And that was a very accurate prediction. So where do you see coming next?
Well, we see most people under 35 grown up on social media. They couldn't care less about Fox News. That's what grandpa does. And so they've been seeing the viral clips of Alex Jones, the forbidden information that does squeak through the censors, going viral. And that's why we see such a lack of support for the Middle East interventions, because these kids are growing up now, young adults, and they're wondering, well, why is it that we're always over in the Middle East? I tuned into Jesse Waters' show on Friday, and the entire show was about how amazing we're doing in Iran. And I'm just thinking, like, nobody cares under 35, under 45, if you can't buy a house, your rent is outrageous, you got to spend hundreds of dollars on the groceries. Just going out on a date is $150. And so none of these kids under 35 are caring about what it is that's going on in the Middle East. That's a boomer issue. They've lost the narrative, despite their censorship taking over TikTok to prevent criticism of a certain little country over there in the Middle East, which seems to have a very interesting amount of influence over our foreign policy. And all of those forbidden topics have now exploded through social media. But it is a double-edged sword, because we are seeing a social media psychosis. We're seeing a certain segment of the population who's able to digest and understand and comprehend all this information. But we also see a very large percentage, and even many on the right, who are just overwhelmed by this and have social media psychosis and don't have the conceptual frameworks to really understand what is that's going on.
I agree. That's the real trend we should be analyzing. Is usually the left had the total deranged, intensifying insanity, which they're just out of their minds. Now I'm seeing a disease either where they think everything's a conspiracy and everyone's an agent but them, and the world is flat and mountains are dead giants and just total schizophrenia. And then you've got white pillars, just neocons, nuclear war is good, Trump is more powerful than God, and then no logic matters. But I want you to go there first, but this isn't about kissing ass, it's about recognizing something. You're actually a super OG too, because you exploded on the scene right before the big takeoff happened with everybody else, with best-selling books and your own shows, and had more viewers, decades ago than CNN even had back then. It's just the facade of CNN and stuff being big was still there, but they were still a shadow of themselves. Now they're a shadow of a shadow. But here's kind of a quick dumb grab. It's not accurate. I drew it real quick. Let's say 1913. Here's awareness to the globalists, the Federal Reserve, stuff like that. Overhead shot, guys. Okay, so here's 1913, and this is just kind of here comes McCarthy and the John Birch Society and actually Vietnam, but now I kind of came along just right here. You came along about right here. Now it's straight up, is my point. And if the graph was accurate, we'd go like 50 feet up in the air. That's literally how big the awakening is. So what has it been like for you? Well, I've known you at least 23 years or so. I mean, I've interviewed you a bunch before I ever met you. What's it been like for you? Because it wasn't just that you were talented. You and I didn't have a lot of competition when we came along. It's been exponential since then. Now I don't see it as competition, but I see it as total proliferation. A lot of good people, but it goes to the next point you were bringing up. There's also now a lot of not quality out there that doesn't really have any contextual understanding, or some of them do. They decide to just say the most outrageous stuff just as clickbait, something I was accused of, you've been accused of, whereas you're even more, in a good way, neurotic than I am about fact checking. That's really what your, degree in media is, right?
Yeah, I'm a media analyst. Fact check, analyze the good, the bad, and the ugly, and how the media systems work. And that's why I don't like doing live interviews, because I am such a perfectionist where I like to go through and double check everything and make sure everything's exactly, every T is crossed, every I is dotted. That's why I like writing books, actually, more than I do making videos. But the videos are kind of an outlet. But you're right. Back in 2016, social media was still in its infancy. It was still kind of a novelty. And the big mainstream, even corporate conservative companies that now proliferate, like The Blaze and Daily Wire and PragerU and Turning Point, some of them weren't even in existence, but some of them were just getting started. But they still didn't understand the power of YouTube. They were still thinking, well, it's on Facebook. We post on Facebook and on Twitter. And then here, people like me and you, we're just rocking and rolling on YouTube, which is basically just your own cable channel. It was a public access cable channel, basically, for the 21st century. And so you're right, back in 2016, we were crushing all CNN, mainstream media. Then a lot of those usurpers came. And remember, they started changing the algorithms right after the 2016 presidential election. YouTube had fair search results, fair suggested videos, but then they realized that the information was being reached to people that they didn't want it to understand it. So then the corporate usurpers came and partnered with the big tech platforms. That's when all the algorithms changed, the search results changed.
Oh, they 100% bury you as a shadow ban. Of course, I've been banned since 2018 completely.
Yeah, they started boosting all mainstream outlets as the top search results, as the recommended. And, this is on my list of things to talk about. The good, it's always a double-edged sword. There's always the good and the bad. So we have Elon buying Twitter, allowed free speech, for the most part, back down, allowed most of the people back on the platform. He slacked on you for a little bit because he didn't understand the actual reason why you were banned. He believed the caricature that the media had painted of you. And it wasn't until Tucker Carlson and others started really laying down the case about why it was that you were actually banned, confronting Oliver Darcy.
And then he went to the logs and saw that he could see deleted, and he said, you never even talked about Sandy Hook. You weren't banned for that. They just made that up.
You're banned for supposedly harassing a reporter who was on the job, on public property, covering an event about social media, and then you politely, I'm actually surprised you were able to contain yourself as well as you did in the face of such evil, Oliver Darcy, and then that was harassing a reporter. So he finally got to see that. So most people had a caricature of who Alex Jones was, just like him, through people like Jimmy Kimmel and the mainstream media trying to paint you as someone that you're not. But what he did recently with monetizing Twitter or X, it's now kind of a toilet bowl because it's incentivized the very worst actors, because people have just started clipping old clips, posting a bunch of slop, third world actors from India, content farms, just posting anything and everything that's an interesting clip, but it's totally irrelevant to the topics or irrelevant to your feed or even anybody that you follow. And so they've taken advantage of this, and it incentivized people to just post crap because it'll go viral. The more clicks, the more retweets.
But that is the problem with the Wild Wild West. You want real freedom, you got it. But I agree, it is like a space bar now. But it's still, but it made it the biggest. So, I mean, if we want free speech, well, then how does he deal with that? I guess maybe create a system where maybe we can choose our feeds or something?
Well, the For You feed used to be interesting topics of people that were from people that you at least follow. But now we're getting the same videos. I was going to create a log of the same videos. I mean, it's not like everybody likes a good funny dog video, a funny cat video, but these content farms just keep recycling the same videos, You can see the same video posted by a dozen different accounts over the course of, every 2 weeks. It's the same videos. So there should be something where once a video that isn't relevant to your content feed or is posted by somebody who you're not even following shows up and gives an impression, that's it. You've seen it. If you didn't interact with it, you don't need to see it again. But it really is the double-edged sword. There may be no solution because with the freedom comes the wild, wild west. And so it just is a difficult job to sift through all of that information, the sea of information and disinformation to find the nuggets of truth, which is, I think, why there are certain people which gain a reputation of trust doing that. But now with AI, you can just start a YouTube channel and have it clone, or there's services out there that literally just sell avatars of models. Instagram is now proliferated with fake AI models. It's starting to make the news where there's a lot of these, wannabe Instagram models and MAGA babes, which are just totally fabricated, which get.
And it turns out it's mainly boomer men are leaving their wives for AI fembots. And back to the boomers, not bashing them. They're the ones that really can't tell AI video, and it's getting better and better. I have boomer people I know call all the time and say, why'd you say that? And they send it to me. I go, you can't tell that's not me. You can't tell that's AI. It doesn't even really look like me. It's crazy.
And some people can't even tell if it's supposed to be satire, but they don't know because the line is blurred, so they think that it's real. Just like over the
a lot of them don't watch videos.
Shooting.
I put out a video, Sunday morning saying, was the shooting staged at the press dinner? And the first minute I say, I don't think it's staged. Almost no one watched it. They were just like, how dare you say it's staged? Like, did you watch the video?
But especially if it's a question mark, that's kind of the indicator that you're not agreeing with the title. Like if you add the question mark, or if it is a question, was it staged? Question mark. That usually should be a tip off into what the content is.
Plus, that was the top trend on X. I was trying to jump on that.
What's really sad, though, is the social media psychosis on the right as well, with former MAGA, disgruntled MAGA, disaffected MAGA, because I have experienced the same attacks that you have over this. I just simply say, it's not staged. Let me just run through some of the reasons, some of the logistics of why that would not be the case. And people get so upset that they accuse me of being an agent and I'm being paid to cover it up. Same thing that you do, which is so strange because instead of just disagreeing with your analysis, they automatically jump to, you must be paid to cover this up, which is extremely odd, especially considering our track records. Because if we were paid disinformation agents, we wouldn't be doing the things and saying the things, exposing the things.
Well, yeah, we're very critical of Trump, and we were right when we are. You're very critical. Exactly.
Well, then you got on the other side, you got some people, the big MAGA cult members who anything that disagrees with Trump, then they get upset. Then the people who get upset because you're not attacking him enough. It just, if you don't attack him on a daily basis, now you're shilling for him. It's so bizarre to see. And the conspiracy theory about it being staged hit the mainstream media, and that's actually kind of a liberal conspiracy theory that then got attached by some disaffected MAGA who are so paranoid and so dismissive of the official story that they just jump to this conclusion that they don't believe anything. But if you really start following what logistically would have to happen for this to have been staged, it completely falls apart. But they don't have the attention span to actually process those different steps. They just jump to the conclusion, and then anybody who is if quote following the official story. I mean, hey, sometimes when the weather report says that it's raining. Sometimes when CNN says that it's a Tuesday, doesn't mean that you're covering it up. It's just kind of sad to see the shortcut that people they're thinking, and it's kind of a cop out as well from the left. It absolves them of any responsibility because if they don't believe that some psycho actually tried to assassinate the president again, then they don't believe that the rhetoric that's being spewed by the Democrat Party and by the mainstream media is having any kind of a negative effect. But obviously, it is stirring up these kinds of crazies, which is why we've seen the violence increasing against Trump and Trump supporters really since 2016, once he got the nomination and it became clear that he was going to likely be the president, or at least
3-4 times the last year and a half, I'll be out in the street, caught it on tape once in D.C., and somebody comes by and goes, I'm going to effing kill you and your family. And every time I look up, it's a tranny. So I mean, they're out there doing violence. They are out, and so I'm not attacking trannies. That's who's death threatening me, and every time they're the most pissed off. And so that's why when Kurt got killed, I said, no, it looks real. Now there's been so many questions. I'm not mad at people asking questions. It's just that you and I both cut our teeth on exposing the corporate media, exposing lies, analyzing things. You have a degree in that. And so now when we see people, quote, on our side getting it wrong, I'm like, hey, there were 12 colonels. There wasn't a meeting at Fort Huachuca. I'm not saying there isn't people involved with killing Kurt. Now I'm an Israeli agent. And so people should value folks that are actually trying to get to the truth. That's all I'm saying.
And then it spirals, and the conspiracy just grows and grows and grows. And now people have lumped Erica Kirk into it, which is just obscene and despicable.
Oh, by the next morning, there were videos with millions of views saying Erica Kirk had a bad showing at an event and claimed she was death threatened. So they did all this to make it look like she's really getting death threats. That is the most bizarre. No, it's Trump, someone trying to kill him, or Trump stage it to be a victim. I mean, I think that's the two scenarios. And I think clearly they don't have all the cops involved, the staging, bad security, the guy rushes by. It is what it is. I mean, it's a deranged leftist that told his family, I'm going to kill him.
A lot of times people confuse correlation with causation as well, because right after the shooting attempt at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, we did see a lot of inner circle mega social media personalities start tweeting in concert about the ballroom. And so I saw some people saying, this is the leftist conspiracy as well, that they staged it in order to get the ballroom. That's putting the cart before the horse. Posting about wanting the ballroom after the fact is a correlation. It's not a causation. It's not why this happened, but it is a result. They're seizing on that opportunity.
And those influencers do get talking points. Trump's obsessed with the ballroom. He says it's for security because they won't let him have events anywhere. And so that morning he said the exact same quote before the event. They're going, oh, look, they did it for a ballroom. No, that's all he ever talks about. In fact, it's weird he talks about it so much.
Well, there's two reasons why they started tweeting about it in concert right after. One is many of them just sort of followed the directives of Trump, and he started talking about it in his press conference, and then everybody started posting about it. Or a lot of them just like to jump onto the bandwagon of the supposed thought leaders in the movement.
Yeah, I know a lot of those people.
It's not like a big
This
secret.
is how it works. They do talk to communications directors. I've been offered to be signed on to it, and the Pentagon too, and I just said, no, thanks. And they say, hey, if you want our talking points, when you agree with them, please put this out. So no, they're all there. They're not sycophants, but they all want to be in the circle with access. And so I guarantee you the communications people said, oh, see, we need the ballroom. And so they all put it out.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not a big conspiracy. It's how communications directors work. They get out the messages. People are on email lists. People are in private chats and group chats, and then they get it. But then people just don't understand that, so then they all of a sudden think that that's why he actually did it. It is very strange, very bizarre. And it's sad too. I find it entertaining, the people who attack me, but from being in this industry, the things that are said about you that personally are not true. And I see the conspiracies about me, and I'm like, oh my God, like some people are just totally insane making things up. And it's just amazing how they can't understand, and they don't want to understand. They take this cop-out of everything is staged. They can't process, they can't articulate these specific steps as to why that would be the case. And I think part of that is because everybody's just overwhelmed with the social media feeds. We're not.
I was thinking this morning, I said the average person is so exhausted, they can't go through an intellectual research. So instead, they just go with whatever they want it to be.
Short-term memories are fried. Attention spans are fried. Cognitive processing at higher levels is fried.
So stay there. I know it's frustrating for you because you're really into fact checking. Well, let's come back and talk about where we go from here. Right now is the time to support InfoWars at its twilight. We are shutting down next Thursday night. The InfoWar continues for all of you. The AlexJonesStore.com is not owned by me. It's owned by Bigley. It owns the Alex Jones Network. They won't be able to shut us down. We have fought them, and we will continue on. But I need your support. The supplements, the methylene blue, the Shilajit, the Irish sea moss, it is all incredible, top-rated, so good for you. You're insane if you don't get it. And we're running a fundraiser here. All the original InfoWars products, we're not going to sell once this goes through, because even though we're battling in court, they could come back and say we violated their whatever. So if you want to get original InfoWars gear and the new update, the 1776 line, now is the time. Also, they're running mega sales every day for the next week at Bigley. If you subscribe to any supplement, you can lock it in for 50% off when you buy it into the future. Cancel anytime with one click. Sign up for any supplement subscription. You get 50% off plus a free bottle of either Ultimate Chill or Ultimate Energy Incredible Formulas. Ultimate Chill helps support calm, balance, and focus. Ultimate Energy helps support energy, drive, and mental intensity. Third deal on top of it, every order gets a free mystery gift with purchase. Biggest sales ever. We want to hire more hosts. We want to expand once this is over. We want to go at least 5 a.m. to midnight every night. We've got big plans, okay? We fought all the way. We rode till the wheels came off. We're going all the way. We're still going to block the onion scammers that got exposed a year and a half ago. They're trying it again. We're going to sue the living hell out of them. Wait till after our guest leaves us. We found incredible information on them. It is so shocking. It's going to just blow you away. Guess what they're into? I don't think you'll be surprised, but it's so bad. You're not going to, I mean, it is the sickest stuff you've ever seen. Out and out Satanism, torturing, murdering children. They love it. They're promoting it. Wait till you see this with Will Ferrell, everything. It's all coming up. But I will continue to fight these people 110%. I love it. I'm built to do it. But I cannot do it without your backing and support. So make the decision now, especially the 99% of you, have millions of viewers a day, that never go to the AlexJonesStore.com to get these incredible items, incredible knives, silver coins, collectibles. It's all there. The AlexJonesStore.com. And it's a free app. The AlexJonesApp.com. On Droid, on Apple, it's all there. It's free. Get it. The show's right there in the center of it. And you get big discounts on everything in the shopping cart when you do it through the app. AlexJonesApp.com. And soon we'll announce the new news site that's even better than InfoWars. It's all coming up. But I can't do it without you. You get all the credit. I need your support now. Firing the bat signal. I want to thank you all for your past support. But those that haven't supported, what are you doing? TheAlexJonesStore.com. Stay with us. So during the break, I went and got myself a glass of iced tea. In the break room, we got Fox News on. We got a bunch of other satellite feeds on the hallways, monitoring. And they're like, outrageous. Large numbers of Americans think the ballroom thing was staged. And now even Jasmine Crockett is saying it's staged. This is outrageous. I don't like Jasmine Crockett. But no, we've been lied to so much. I think it's okay if you want to believe the world's flat and everything's staged. What I'm saying is, we don't just question everything. We try to get to the answers. And that's what we're talking about here. And, you know, so much of what we're told or so much of what we see turns out to not be true. I don't want to spend all day on this, but I'm noticing it too. It's getting more and more acute, not just on X, but everywhere else. But Fox News, again, is now the tail on the dog, whereas they can ignore that the internet doesn't buy anything, which overall I think is healthy. Now they don't ignore it, and now every day I see Fox a day or two after we cover something, you or I, that they're mimicking exactly what we're saying and having to cover what we do. That just shows how completely dinosaur they are. But Trump still thinks that whatever's on Fox News is the most important thing in the universe.
We're living in a world now where Nick Shirley, a YouTuber, is the most important investigative reporter who now has really led to indictments now of the Leering Center. I think that's the same one that has been indicted, right? And after he investigated welfare fraud or hospice fraud in California, then all of a sudden, I think it was like CBS News went over and did an investigation. They claimed that they were the one who were breaking the news story. So we live in a world where those who have the credibility and the means to go and investigate and break stories are leading, and really have for like the last 10 years, the mainstream media. The same Fox News, by the way, that celebrated Pride Month along with MSNBC and every other corporate media outlet in America back in like 2021, 2022, as they kept getting progressively more liberal. Literally, you had Ainsley Earhart, the Fox and Friends Christian morning host, doing daily segments for like at least a week until they finally caught wind of the backlash, celebrating Pride Month and the contributions of the LGBTQ people, and Dana Perino, who's, you know, chummy with Hillary Clinton. She pretends to be, you know, a conservative when she's on the Five, but she was one of George Bush's, you know, leading liars about the WMD hoax back during the Bush administration. She's out there on Fox News, literally celebrating transgender children. That's who Fox News is. Okay.
Well, you know, a lot of people at Fox, and so do I, but they told me even recently it's still the same. They're almost all leftists that hate America, except a few of the hosts. Even the hosts are just cynical and just go with whatever they think they're allowed to do. And that's why Tucker was so glad to be fired. So it was the best thing that ever happened to him. And they wouldn't even tell him why, but he knew it was a big pharma, the war, you know, all of it. And the fact that, but the last thing was having dinner at Rupert Murdoch's house. And Rupert Murdoch goes, surely you're not really a Christian. Surely you don't believe in God now. And he said, I was brought up Episcopalian, wasn't sure God was real, but he said, I've had spiritual experiences. And Murdoch stopped talking for the rest of the dinner for like an hour to him, and he was fired 2 days later. So he thinks at the end of the day,
It's hilarious
well,
how-
I don't think he's told the story yet. He shared the gospel with Rupert Murdoch and said, you should accept Jesus. And Murdoch, for the last hour, did not talk. And his new fiance or the new wife, whatever she said, I agree, I found Jesus, and then he divorced her. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, a lot of these people, I mean, they become so megalomaniacal. There's just very little that they would have in common with Jesus. It's like a vampire and garlic. They are repelled by it. And now it's hilarious how the terrestrial radio host, the Fox News host, Mark Levin, is just a weekend host, really, is saying, well, those little podcasters, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, they don't matter at all, even though you all are getting more views than any major Fox News show in
Well,
prime
so are
time.
you. You're getting more than all the scene. But that's the thing is, I see the clips not even looking because they push him. They'll have low view numbers, but they're pushing him. He's like, you little bitty nothings, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones. You're really nothing. And what is it, a podcast? I don't even know what that is. I'm on talk radio, baby. Well, so are we. But he doesn't even know we can go look at his numbers. And Tucker Carlson's like 50 times bigger. The delusion. It's like a peewee football or baseball team thinking they're in the major leagues. It's not even like I'm measuring my dick here with them. But, dude, I mean, Tucker Carlson's got like an 80-foot-long dick compared to Levin's. You got to find it with a magnifying glass if you use that analogy. I'm sorry, it's a gross analogy, but it works. I mean, this is like a guy with a micro penis. You literally tell everybody he's got the biggest dick in the universe.
Well, just a month ago, CNN tried an experiment only for a few days, and then it backfired because of the widespread mockery. You probably saw this, where they pretended to be podcasters. They switched up their studios on their primetime shows. Jake Taper, Jake Tapeworm, Anderson Cooper. They put microphones on their desks, and they went to a different desk. And Jake Taper had his show from his office with his little bobbleheads, like an ordinary YouTuber with their home office. Remember that? And they literally tried to pose as podcasters because so many people are looking at podcasters as being more trustworthy,
and it totally failed.
more relatable.
Yeah, remember, CNN even launched a whole new division of that.
And nobody would pay. I mean, let's not forget that CNN Plus failed after.
Hold on. Did they invest $500 million? Was it?
It was a lot of money, and it failed, I think, after less than 2 weeks. It was maybe 13 days or something like that. I should have said some more clips from the greatest hits of Alex Jones, because sometimes we forget how much you've been correct about things, or we're dealing with so many different topics today. I like to kind of look back and give a big historical, contextual view.
Well,
of things,
look out! I'll hand the baton to you in the fourth hour, and you can send it to him if you want to do that. I'll get off and let you know.
One of the clips I was going to send is such a low resolution clip, because back in the day when it was uploaded to YouTube and whoever downloaded it was, probably 120p, was Alex Jones ranting about the BPA in the juice boxes as an endocrine disruptor. And that was well over 10 years ago. That was probably 15 years ago. And now transgenderism is one of the top political stories in the country. And it's still so politically incorrect to admit that there's likely a chemical component to this. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was talking about this when he was running for president in 2024, but it still just kept going over people's heads. Even Jordan Peterson on his podcast, RFK Jr. mentioned, well, these endocrine disruptors, atrazine and the bisphenol A, it's affecting these children's hormones, and it's rewiring their brains in the womb. And that's what's causing, he believes, many researchers believe, at least a large contributor to the transgenderism epidemic. But you can't talk about that, because then you go down that road and they'll accuse you of being a Nazi eugenicist. And if you say that it's a birth defect, then you're saying that there's something, quote, wrong with them. And then if you're trying to, quote, cure it, you're not allowed to do that. And remember, Amazon banned books. Surprisingly, they did retreat on some of their bans. They banned When Harry Became Sally about 4 years ago, which is a book about transgenderism, saying that, well, because it equates transgenderism and gender identity with a mental illness, that's hateful, so they can't allow that book to be sold. And then they finally did restore that book after 4 years. And then we saw what happened with the recent book that they did just restore about the mass immigration, the novel from 1973, Camp of the Saints. And then the outrage caused them to put that back. But there's still a bunch of other books. I've covered them for years. The mainstream conservative pundits won't talk about them, that have been banned in the big book purge of 2019, 2020. Where they're still a little too controversial for the mainstream pundits to talk about. So they'll jump on Camp of the Saints because it's an immigration issue. They'll jump on When Harry Became Sally. But they won't talk about books like Jared Taylor's White Identity or Professor Kevin McDonald's book, Culture of Critique. He's a retired professor of California State University, Long Beach, a sociologist, talking about Jewish groups and some of their influence and the activities that they've been involved in regarding political and social movements. But not supposed to talk about those kinds of things because then people start asking too many questions.
But it's not working. I noticed Greenblatt says, I've got all these PhD psychological warfare experts trying to figure out how we cure people of anti-Semitism. And I'm like, how about the Israel lobby not run around and drag us into wars and try to censor us and play the part of classical villains? How about you look in the mirror with your behavior?
Yeah, and how about not calling people an anti-Semite if they're just simply not interested in a foreign intervention, in a foreign problem? If they're starting to ask questions, reasonable questions about a foreign influence operation in the United States. It was hilarious how most Republicans were against funding the Ukraine war. We don't want any funding in Ukraine. We forget about Pajama Boy. But then all of a sudden, once the Israel-Gaza war started, now there's always that exception. So that's why I don't
and
like...
now those of us that said the war would be a disaster, we're all Qatari agents with no evidence. But meanwhile, it turned out that almost all these influencers are on the official Israeli government payroll without even being registered, but it's left alone, and that Salem Radio is literally owned by the Israeli military. I mean, so they're pointing their finger at us. Literally, they say, oh, he's a Qatari agent. I've never been to Qatar, and I got 1 red cent from any Muslim group. I'm a freaking Islamophobe. and then they're saying, I'm on the payroll of these people. Meanwhile, they're on the payroll of Israel.
That's why people like Brandon Tatum, who rose the ranks as a black conservative, very popular YouTuber, now just seems to put Israel first because he is with Salem Radio. He is with that same group that's been funding, because it's admitted that the Israeli government has a contract with an agency that then has a contract with Salem to promote Israeli interests.
Yeah,
so
no, the guy that runs Salem is a direct agent getting massive millions from him. And,
that's why Brandon Tatum has basically abandoned the black community and black causes, and you would swear that he is Israeli, because that seems to be that all.
Yeah, I've known him a long time. He's speaking talk shows. When you hear him now, he's reading a script.
Well, he says that Tucker is one of the most dangerous anti-Semites in the whole world, and if Tucker didn't matter, then you wouldn't have people like Ted Cruz and Mark Levin attacking him literally almost every single day. By the way,
that's what they say. They say Tucker's the new Hitler at the ADL. Then he says it. Literally, Tatum reads a ADL script. I mean, it's word for word the same thing.
Well, the same rhetoric that they were using against people like Charlie Kirk, calling Charlie Kirk's speech dangerous, which then cited a domestic, sarcastic terrorist to assassinate him. They're using the same speech against people like Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson's dangerous now. He needs to be stopped, calling him the most dangerous man in America, which is interesting because if you go and look at Ben Shapiro's YouTube stats.
Yeah, let's talk about that. We have a collapse of Shapiro.
And the collapse of Jeremy Boring, the former CEO and self-proclaimed godhead of the Daily Wire, who is not there anymore. He was fired probably for wasting the company's monies on his pet projects, wanting to be a Hollywood producer. But Ben Shapiro's views are nothing. Ben Shapiro has like 5 or 6 million subscribers on YouTube. Most of his videos can barely get 30 or 50,000 views. And you have Jeremy Boring, who quietly was fired from the Daily Wire. He was working on a pet project, a documentary or a series about some dragons and mystical lands. And then they said he was just transitioning positions. He's changing to a creative director. Well, as a consultant until he finished producing that film, and now he's gone. He has a podcast all by himself, and on YouTube he has 25,000 subscribers. So the head of what was, it still may very well be, the most powerful, wealthy, Daily Wire is actually $1 billion company.
They were funded by a Christian Zionist out of Frisco, Texas.
Well, Ben Shapiro's making $20 or $30 million a year just himself. But just to show the inauthenticness of some of those people, the godhead, the leader of the co-founder was forced out and has his now independent podcast, and he literally has 25,000 views. Oh, and by the way, Jeremy Boring was the director of what's called the Friends of Abe, which is, you could call it a secret society of conservatives in Hollywood that's been around. Gary Sinise founded it, by the way. And when you talk about a secret society, often has sinister connotations, but this is basically just kind of like a private club of conservatives in Hollywood. And when Gary Sinise stepped down as the director to go and do other things. Jeremy Boring became the director of the organization. And then what did he do? This is right around 2016. He shut it down. So as soon as Jeremy Boring became the head of
his name says it all. It's boring. Their job is to control and then shut down nationalist movements. Looking at other issues, the backlash, people logging off and going back to real life. Yeah, we do some AI. It's fun. But at a certain point, AI makes me just subconsciously feel sick.
It has gotten quite entertaining, but at the same time, when you're having these funny pet accounts posting AI slop instead of actual videos of actual animals doing funny things, it kind of takes the fun out of it. And, you know, for a while, you could kind of tell if they were fake, or some people could tell if they were fake, but now it's got so sophisticated, you can't tell. So there is a big backlash amongst Gen Z, even millennials, who are joining running clubs, joining pickleball clubs, getting away from social media. And we should start shunning people who live their lives on social media, not as a profession, not to gather their news, but this epidemic of people, mostly women, talking into their phones in their cars, having conversations with their phone and then posting it online about things that they really should be talking about on the phone or in person with their girlfriends, with their friends, oftentimes just complaining about relationships, having delusional and completely outrageous expectations, but also just dumping their bad date scenarios, just ranting and raving about what just happened with their Hinge date. Always in their car, because they often have roommates. It's the one place that they can be alone, so they just feel they can peacefully, dump their data. It's strange. We should start shunning this kind of behavior if it's not contributing to a larger conversation.
No, I agree.
There's
it's totally mindless. So let me ask you this. You got the boomers, and a lot of them are great. I'm not putting boomers down. My parents are boomers. They're dialed in, know what's going on. But we know the numbers. We see it. They still believe Fox News and love war on average, and they're in their own world. And I don't think they realize that the vast majority of the public doesn't believe anything they're told, anything that's said. I'll play a Fox News clip in a moment that I mentioned earlier, like just 30 minutes ago, where they're like, gosh, people don't believe this, and now members of Congress don't. Overall, that's healthy that it's baked in, that people don't buy it anymore. And not only are people had Hollywood fatigue 20 years ago, now Hollywood's uncool. Well, so are galas. And I saw Robert Reich and a bunch of the Democrats saying, we used to be stars. We were celebrities. He wrote an article for CNN. This was glamorous, where we would be famous and everyone loved us, and the media and both parties. And now Trump has ruined it. No, you guys are hated for a long time. And so maybe you're 80 years old and you still think red carpets and tuxedos are cool. The average person is just bored with it. It doesn't impress us. Original Hollywood would set up the paparazzi and the cameras to make it look like it was this big hysteria, but it wasn't. So now that people are not enamored with celebrity anymore and they can't tie it into government and causes, I think that's the real loss of power in the power structure. A, do you agree with that? B, what comes out of that now?
It's the fractured media ecosystem we have now, which is why the Oscars and the Grammys are always historical lows. They're no longer a cultural event. I mean, when I was a kid back in the 90s, it was probably 1 out of 4 people were watching the Oscars. You would come to school the next day, people would come to work the next day. Almost everybody knew. Most people had seen several of the films that had been up for nominations. But if you tune in now, most Americans have never even seen most of the movies that are even being nominated, which is why now we're seeing the influencer infiltration. So they can no longer just have a handful of A-list Hollywood celebrities. So now they're going for the influencers through their management agencies, through their talent agencies. But back to what you said about how nobody believes what's going on in the media. When we saw that poll, about 90% of MAGA support this war, I just instinctively knew that was not true. I could tell from my own
CNN
audience.
had one that said 100%.
I could tell from my own audience, from the comments, every time I was critical of it, everybody or most people agreed. So I posted a poll on YouTube, which is very different than posting a poll on Twitter, because you can easily get a poll on Twitter, X, in front of a totally different audience to skew the poll. But on YouTube, it's your own audience, your own subscribers. And I was just curious. I posted a poll. I said, do you support the war in Iran? Over 2/3 were opposed to it. So it's not even close. It's not even 90%, not even half of MAGA. And you can't
listen,
really get
all my friends and family and neighbors have all been Trump. Some weren't at first, but they've been. I'd say out of all these veterans I'm friends with that are conservatives, they're all pissed off and don't like Democrats, but are freaked out about Trump. I'd say 90% of the people I know are pissed at Trump.
Absolutely. And it would be one thing if this was just another one and done. You know, when he went and bombed them last summer, it was very, a lot of people were rightfully to be skeptical and concerned that it's going to spark a bigger regional conflict. But it's just one and done. Okay, that's it. We're good. And this has happened several other times, even as soon as he was sworn in office in 2017. He struck a military base over in Syria. Everybody started getting understandingly upset and thinking, wait a minute, this isn't what we voted for. Why are we now getting involved? Okay, it's a one and done. We killed that Iranian general. One and done, went and, took Maduro down. Just a couple hour operation. So when this happened, it's I was a little cautious. Like, okay, is this just like a follow up just to make sure that we're going to, neutralize all their military operations, all their nuclear programs? But here we are now, a month and a half. They're saying it's going to be several
we're now
more
60
months.
days.
Before they run out of oil, and then they start to feel the pain. And like I said, Jesse Waters was leading the entire show on Friday, was how amazing the war in Iran is going and how devastated they are. We don't care. Your average American couldn't care less.
Well, and I would even say to Trump, if you want to sell a war, just say, I think it's the right thing, and we're going to see what happens. Don't lie to us constantly.
Or tell us that we're doing it to choke off the oil from China. Give a presentation about it, especially with it ongoing. But, sometimes I think we give him too much credit thinking that he is omniscient. Because we know certain areas more than he does about things. He has his advisors.
No, he admits he doesn't understand the military. He admits it. Hey, let's do this. Do 5 more minutes. I know you got to go a little bit more in the next hour. But let's plug you. You got great T-shirts, great books. You're a one-man wrecking crew reaching millions a week. How do people, most everybody knows who you are, but how do people find Mark Dice? Because you're suppressed like I am everywhere. People have to go hand find where you're at.
Primary on YouTube, you have to find me because I'm not, populating in the For You feed. Even if you're subscribed, you still may not even see. You can get my books on Amazon. Several of them have been best-selling books. Just with the power of the internet, the power of YouTube, the war on conservatives, Hollywood propaganda, how TV, movies, and music shape our culture. But find me on YouTube where I do reports. I try to do reports 3 days a week at least. And try to make them a little entertaining, try to provide some levity to the situation because it's so stressful, so chaotic. And by the way, I'm really glad. It's amazing to see the transformation of you losing weight, getting in shape, getting your drinking under control. And I was getting worried there for you for a while. I thought we might see Alex.
I didn't have one drink for 6 months, and then I had 1 drink a month, and I had 5 drinks a month, and I had 20, and I've now stopped it again. Yeah, it's not good.
But, in the amount of stress that you've had, it's absolutely amazing that you haven't had a heart attack. But the fact that
the only time I can check out is I got to exercise really hard and I can check out mentally. But then I can't get out of bed. I can work out like a son of a bitch for 52. I'm working like 20-year-olds. They can't keep up, but I'm going at it. I can either work out to get my brain on things, or I can sit back and drink a half bottle of vodka. So I'm doing the working out instead of the drinking the vodka.
Very proud of you, man. And it's going to be great to see these clowns celebrating what they think is the supposed death of InfoWars when the Alex Jones show is going to continue, just like it did. I'm losing track of time. Was it sometime last year when InfoWars went off the air?
Oh, they grabbed it all illegally. Stay there. Do a little bit more time with us. Mark Dice, stay right there. I need to plug because I didn't plug last hour. Speaking of that, he's funded by you, the viewers. People want to know who funds me. Not Qatar, not the Israelis, not the Republicans. I'm funded by you, and that means I bring you products that really work. And I don't own the AlexJonesStore.com. Bigley does. They own the new network, the little studio. We're building a bigger one with another sponsor they're working with. So a lot of big stuff's going on, but I need the funds. Plus, these products are insane. So all the old InfoWars gear, the Faraday bag, limited edition, the last InfoWars silver coin, it's all going to sell out in the next few days because they didn't get that many of them. That supports the broadcast. Take advantage of that. There's also a bunch of other big deals. This is the biggest sale they've ever done. It's a blowout sale. Silver round and Faraday bag, that is a huge value selling out InfoWars product fundraiser. All the original shirts and updated limited editions. This is your last chance to get those. There are so many great sales at thealexjonesstore.com. But if you really want to experience something amazing, get our ultramethylene blue, get our Irish sea moss, get our Shilajit. These things, bovine colostrum, they really work. We have the best, cleanest iodine. Lactex 2, it's the same thing, but stronger. T3. These are game-changing products. And it's not a bestseller because people don't listen to me, but Ultimate Life Force is a spike protein detox. It's the 2 top brands that scientists recommend basically combined. It's a horse pill. Everybody should be taking this for the spike protein and the garbage. Because if you didn't take the shot, This stuff is shedding. It's going all over the place. This is such an important detox. It's so good for your cardiovascular system. And our Zeolite also is a chelator and pulls out the spike protein. Everybody should be taking Ultimate Life Force and the Zeolite from thealexjonesstore.com, thealexjonesstore.com. And you can find the video and audio feeds of the new show that launches Friday at 11 a.m. Same broadcast, same person, same everything, just different name, The Alex Jones Show. So they think getting InfoWars is going to do something. Nobody even knew that term InfoWars when I started it. It was intelligence agencies doing it. That's what they call it, but we're the people using the truth to counter lies. So the InfoWars they can't take it away. I think getting a URL, plus, by the way, we'll probably be back in here. My lawyers are like, they're screwed. We already filed stuff last night, today, and tomorrow. I mean, just like the last two times they seized the company, they got kicked out. But at a certain point, it's like, I'm not crying wolf. This has been a real fight, but holy hell. Looks like we might beat them again, so say a prayer. This is your last chance until next Thursday to get original InfoWars apparel that's historic, because they're going to claim they own it even if they do get it. And that's in question, but we're just considering that's it. Probably your last time, maybe, who knows. But just get it, thealexjonesstore.com. I don't own that. They can't get it. It funds the new network. But this I'm impressed with, okay? They said, we're going to launch 5 of the best-selling trench warfare battle daggers with skull crushers, murdered out brass knuckles, 10-inch razor-sharp double-edged dagger with limited edition inscriptions. There's only 1,000 of each one of these knives. Now, this is You Are the InfoWar is one of them with InfoWars on it, so that's the last time you can get that, okay? And that looks cool, and it's probably the one you want to get because it should be the rarest, but it's not the coolest. I'm sorry. Look at the stuff they did. I just said, do whatever you want. You're so talented. Liberty or death with an American flag. And then it's got World War II with, Eternal Soldier and bullet holes. I mean, that is just wicked. There's 5 of these. Only 1,000 of each. Look at this, limited edition. This is in Latin, Christ is King. And on the other side, it's got the Jerusalem cross. I did come up with that one, which they think is so evil, which I love. It's a beautiful cross. You got that. Look at this bad boy. Look at this bad boy right here. This has got to be the coolest. It's the Spartans from 300, the real event that happened, and they've got all their phalanx with their shields and their spears. I mean, just look at that craftsmanship, lasered, and look at that. Molon Labe, come and take it, which echoes through time, through the Alamo and everything else. I mean, just bad ass. I bet these sell out in a day or two. And all the new t-shirts and everything and a bunch of other huge sales. It is insane. This is a $199 value with inscription for just $79. Did you hear that? VIP $63.99. They make like $10 on that. And when you buy 2 daggers, you get an extra 25% off and can mix and match. This is insane. April 30th is your last chance to get official InfoWars products, probably. So that's a fundraiser too. Get those. Got a lot of limited edition there as well. Third deal, subscribing at 50% off any supplement. Lock it in the future, cancel any time. You just lock in the savings if you want it. Not canceling time for free, one click. And get a free bottle of Ultimate Chill or Ultimate Energy, which is an amazing energy formula and relaxation formulas, free with every order. And it goes on. 4th deal, mystery gift and everything. These deals are too good. I told them that, actually. These guys are just badass. TheAlexJonesStore.com, funding the Second American Revolution worldwide and pissing off the pedophile Satanist all the way. All right, Mark's with us another 15 minutes. I got a ton of news I haven't hit, breaking news and more that Fox Clip I haven't gotten to yet. But Mark wanted to get to how big we're winning the culture wars. Because people can get depressed seeing Trump go sideways and think, oh, God, we're losing. No, the populism is winning all over the world. People hate the system. We just have to keep pushing forward and keep unifying the people in team humanity concepts. So give us a few examples of, as a media analyst, a best-selling author on it, how we're winning the culture war.
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, well, Twitter obviously, but Facebook and YouTube, 2 of the big tech titans that are not playing along with, Elon Musk's philosophy of free air speech, did let President Trump back on the platform. We've seen a lot of the censorship slow down. They've even announced that they've changed some of their policies where, oh, surprise, now you actually can criticize gender ideology. So, I mean, we sort of forget how bad things used to be. And there's so much that the enemy's throwing at us that we have to deal with on a daily basis. But we have made some significant cultural victories regarding pushing back against censorship. Finally, with Rumble being the viable alternative to YouTube, many other platforms have tried and failed. Some of them still around, BitChute, but still pretty small. Didn't attract, some of the bigger names that we see on social media.
Yeah, for people that don't know, YouTube has more views video-wise than all other media on earth combined.
Yeah, it has more advertising revenue than all the major networks. It is now a television provider as well. So instead of just going to
Trump
Warner
still
Brothers,
thinks it's not important.
When I was at the White House, when I got invited in 2019, that was my question to him. I stood up and I said, hey, listen, I was as respectful as I could, but I said, hey, sir, everybody's talking about Facebook and Twitter. We've seen Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey being called to testify in front of Congress. I said, but YouTube is sort of the forgotten area of social media. It's not just for funny cat videos. It's a critically important piece of infrastructure. And here we have still all these years later, it's just still kind of forgotten about. Like, people still only focus, I think, on those two major platforms, Facebook for the boomers, Twitter, X for kind of the total news junkies.
Well, I watch things, and even my parents' homepage on their TVs is now YouTube. And all my friends and family in other states, I pay attention to stuff like that. You go in their house, YouTube's the launch pad. Like
what?
Yeah.
And also, I see, I don't use Instagram much, but I see some Instagram reels and some memes on Instagram, which they're hilarious. I'm shocked that they haven't been banned. I'll have friends.
Oh yeah, Instagram's huge too. Don't lie. Yeah, but just the fact that Trump, like, he went on Elon once and had 1 billion people that clicked it, and then he was like, yeah, that's not big, because he couldn't see himself on Fox News. It's ridiculous.
And that's why everybody's on. Megyn Kelly's on YouTube. Tucker Carlson went to YouTube. They all have their distribution through Spotify and things, but for those people who like video, YouTube is where it's at. That's why it's hilarious. Back in 2016, you didn't have major media figures on YouTube. And then all of a sudden we started seeing big brand name, senators, Ted Cruz launching a podcast on YouTube, who, by the way, works every day for 13 years to help a foreign country instead of America.
And they're so behind the curve. Well, let me just point out, I am still banned on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook.
Well, we should make a big push to try to change that. And, YouTube did allow some people who are banned for COVID and election discussions back on the platform. Remember when you couldn't even question the 2020 election on YouTube? You couldn't question COVID. You couldn't point out the fact or even question whether or not it was leaked from a lab, let alone whether it was a bioweapon done on purpose to, cause the shutdown of everything. So they did actually allow a lot of those people back on the platform. So we have made some progress. And that's why Andrew Breitbart's quote about culture being more important than politics downstream from culture, absolutely critical. So we have made tremendous victories. And even the Trump administration has made some big cultural victories.
So let me ask you a question when we come back. Why did he then attack some of the biggest talk show hosts instead of attacking Democrats when we criticized him? We'll be right back. I'll talk about a big move at Google by Sergey Brin. Well, I don't want to say Mark Dice is underrated because he's respected and been very popular forever. 20-something years I've known him, but he is underrated. The guy knows his crap. He knows his shit, as they say. And without even talking to him, asked him to come on, he said yes. He was just sorry, too busy. I didn't have to send him topics or even ask what we wanted to get into because I knew we'd be simpatico. And he said, in closing, he wants to get in, does he regret for voting for Trump? What's going to happen in the midterms? That was my own little private list I scribbled this morning. And then the last thing was on my list. So he literally, everything he sent me is on the list. It's just crazy. But for stations that don't carry the first five, we were getting into what does Trump think when he goes against his no big war thing, particularly Iran, saying Kamala will attack Iran, World War III, don't do it. His own chairman of the Joint Chiefs says don't do it. Then he thinks attacking Tucker, myself, Candace Owens, and Megyn Kelly is going to be popular. And even in polls, scientific ones, it shows that hurt him attacking his base's most popular people, and then Mark Levin, who's ultra unpopular, and Ben Shapiro, who, because of money behind him, used to be big. He's literally a joke now. The stations have all dumped him, 5,000, 20,000 viewers with 6 million subscribers. I mean, it's a joke, folks. I can point a camera in my house at dry paint and look at 1 million views. So can Mark Dice. We're not bragging. It's just like, how did he get like the snake in the Jungle Book when it's hypnotizing Mowgli, with the spinning eyes or something? And can Trump be saved and extricated from this? And that all ties into which I actually had. Tucker Carlson's been apologizing. The way I was going to raise this was actually about Tucker. And Tucker does this, but I'm so sorry I supported him and got him in. I feel terrible. No, he didn't go to big wars the first time. He did most of what he said. He's way better. The fact that Grandpa's gone crazy doesn't mean we were wrong to back the best horse at the time. If a horse just won the last 3 races, you're going to bet on it at the Kentucky Derby. Sorry, it breaks his leg in the first lap. It's not your fault. You don't say, sorry, I told you bet on, War Horse or whatever it is. So that's a big gestalt, Mark Dice.
And Kamala Harris would have done the same exact thing. And yeah, for those people who are like, I regret voting for him, I'm never voting Republican again, I'm never voting again, blah, blah. Well, then you support the country being invaded by 2 million illegal aliens per year. That's the Joe Biden administration's minimum. Under Kamala Harris, it would have gotten even worse. And then if they, take over in Congress, they're going to give them amnesty. And so you could support policies. You don't have to support everything that the man does, but the public are so fickle. When they get disappointed by something that he's done, they want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, whereas I do not regret voting for him. I still will vote for Republicans because even if we have this two-choice system, some people say it's a false paradigm, not entirely accurate regarding most things. It's a two-party system, and one party sucks. The other party is dog crap. And so if you did not vote, that's de facto a vote for Kamala Harris. So we would have had the Equality Act passed. We would have had transgenders in sports. We would have had 2 million illegal aliens more welcomed in per month. Unspeakable horrors that would have been unleashed upon this country. So no, I don't regret voting for him. Just because he's doing some things and being misled doesn't mean that we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But why is he attacking you and Tucker Carlson and all these people? Well, man does have the biggest ego probably in the history of the world. And as soon as any big name, especially was formerly associated with him, starts disagreeing with him, his ego can't tolerate that, and he has to lash out like a middle school kid on the playground. Just has to be a bully again. And
that's the thing. I'm not the most powerful man on earth like him, but I'm making an important decision. I ask friends, confidants, family, even though I think I know the best. And a lot of times it makes me augment or change or maybe not do what I was going to do. Like, why doesn't he want that?
Well, and he may be blackmailed as well. The country may be blackmailed from a certain little foreign country that's supposedly our greatest ally. And Jared Kushner is his son-in-law, who he does rely on as one of his key advisors. And so
the guy that owns 666 Park Avenue?
Yeah, who follows me on Twitter, on X, by the way, which is very odd. And he didn't just do a spam follow. So at one point I was on his radar, which is very strange. But President is spinning so many different plates that there's only so many hours and minutes in the day. And so that's why you have advisors. That's why as a leader, you have to delegate different responsibilities to different people. And so everybody's trying to clamor for his attention just for 30 seconds to try to get him to think their way, to do this, shine a light on this issue, do that. And so while he ultimately is responsible, he is infiltrated by a bunch of neocons, which, by the way, Mark Levin says that's an anti-Semitic slur if you just call somebody a neocon now. And Mark Levin, of course, big never Trumper. Ben Shapiro, big never Trumper. But now they're the new MAGA. So I think we should start calling these people neo-MAGA instead of neocons. They're the neo-MAGA.
I agree. They are the neo-Nazi MAGA. But yeah, I know you're the historian, so I got to ask you this question. You'll know 1 out of 100 might. We get the term neocons from who, from them, and where do they come from, Mark?
Well, it's an opposition to the paleo-conservatives, which is paleo meaning original or traditional conservatives, which is what conservatism used to be. So neocon means new, the new conservative. So they basically, these former liberals then hijacked the Republican Party, and a lot of them have certain ethnic groups and certain
And they
allegiances
wrote books in the 50s and 60s saying, we're going to hijack it with William F. Buckley. And they were the literal adjuncts of Trotsky, who got kicked out of Russia. So that's why they're so anti-Russian, because they want to get back control. And that's why they're behind the Ukraine thing, literally again.
That's why they smear Pat Buchanan, one of the key paleo-conservatives who wrote books like 15 years ago warning about all the immigration issues called The Death of the West, The Suicide of a Superpower. You go back and read his books, and they're prophetic because he was trying to alert people about this. But the neocons hijacked, there was two phases when they hijacked the party back in like the 1960s, and then again in the 1990s when we saw the Bush administration being led by a bunch of Skull and Bones members getting us involved in Iraq.
And now they're trying to do it again.
And it's just incredible because Fox News was the biggest cheerleader of the Iraq war, which everybody now agrees was based on total lie, total hoax, no weapons of mass destruction, the fabricated yellow cake uranium documents. But now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe what Fox News is saying, cheerleading another war in the same region.
And Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson, they're not real MAGA. I'm real MAGA, even though I'm an ever-Trumper.
Yeah, Mark Levin is just one of the most pathetic little weasels that there are to exist. But it goes back, why is President Trump attacking, lashing out at you guys? I mean, let's face it. He does have the biggest ego in the history of mankind. And with anybody who's very gifted in anything, I think comes an equal downside. It's sort of they're balanced. They have talent, but then they have an equal downside.
Yeah, see, I agree. Ego's one driver. I don't have a big ego. It comes off like that. I have a desperate thing of mission. Like I'm supposed to do this, and then I feel like a failure, like I'm dying and I'm weak. It's the opposite. It's like growing up. Like if a little guy started to fight with me, the little guy could kick my ass because I wouldn't wake up. If some huge dude attacked me, I would put him in the hospital. It's the same thing. It's like I don't actually feel like I'm powerful. I feel like I've taken on these huge forces and I'm desperate. Does that make sense? It's not from ego. It's from mission.
But his ego won't let him admit the obvious, which Speaker of the House Mike Johnson admitted, Marco Rubio admitted right after this latest war against Iran started, was Israel kind of forced our hand. And then all of a sudden he's like, well, nobody tells President Trump what to do. Get the Dan Bonginos out there, all of these little inner circle.
Netanyahu said it. He said nobody tells Trump what to do. That's ridiculous. Really, he's tried to get every president for 30 years to attack Iran.
Yeah, and so he can't come out and admit, oh, I was wrong. Nobody with a gigantic ego can admit that they were wrong. So they're always going to justify. And then he hears from his inner circle that, oh, his former podcaster hosts are now attacking you, so he has to go on a screen. But he does post some very odd things. I mean, his attack against Rob Reiner after he was murdered by his psychotic son. Very, very
He said he deserved it.
Well, he said that he brought it upon himself because of his just a very, very cruel thing. So he is his worst enemy, and sometimes we do have to call him out for really diverting from the actual agenda. Now, the midterms are coming up. Can we, by any chance, make it? It just depends. The public has very short memory. If this war can wrap up, people will forget about it. Just like they
I know his advisors have told him if we get real indictments, people will forgive him. And I think we're seeing some indictments now. You have any faith in that?
You know, it's nice to see lawfare being used against the enemy the same way that they did against us. But they have so many judges, so many George Soros puppets in place that they're going to throw it out. This new James Comey indictment that's going to probably be thrown out just in a matter of weeks. But at least it does give him the stress. But they are finally doing indictments against the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is interesting. That's why another $1 went into the
Alex Jones Fauci advisor. The Fauci advisor.
The Fauci advisor, you know, people for mortgage fraud. So, but it's long overdue. And I don't know what has been taking them so long to start doing this. And the immigration issue.
Maybe it was Pam Bondi. Maybe it seems like the dam broke when she got removed.
Yeah, she was absolutely worthless. I mean, let's face it, she was a diversity hire. He hired her off of Fox News. Let's just be honest about it. She shouldn't really.
Did you like her when she said the fentanyl they seized saved 287 million Americans?
Well, but the Dow's at 50,000, don't you know? I mean, she's just absurd. And it's the binders with the fake Epstein documents that she concocted, thinking that the American people would just accept that she supposedly released them, when anybody who knew anything about it knew that those were actually old documents that she gave to those social media influencers. But not only that, redacted old documents. You could go online.
Well, that's what I said. If you're going to cover it up, just shut up.
It's good that she's got. I don't really have faith in Kash Patel either. I think he looks like a deer caught in the
He
headlights.
literally looks like a deer in the headlights all the time.
Yeah, he's way in
And when
over
the
his
shooting
head.
happened, they drug him outside. He didn't know there was a camera on the dark, but cameras are so good on phones now. He's literally like,
Did you hear how fast he was talking after the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner? Because he was so nervous. And I understand public speaking is a very difficult thing, especially in such a contentious environment. But he is just he needs to go. And also, too, with the midterms coming up, if President Trump can't get this thing under control, if we can't wrap up this war, if he can't start getting some more wins, Republicans just won't go and vote. Because I don't know how he's going to win the support back from MAGA when my own audience, which used to be ultra MAGA, is now 2/3 against the war, largely even against him, disappointed in him for
well,
if.
Well, that's the
not
thing. I've
only
heard his
just-
surrogates say, go ahead, vote Democrat. We know you won't. No, they just won't show up.
They won't show up, and we know how well organized the Democrat Party is with getting out the votes, with the unions, and even bribing homeless people with packs of cigarettes and busing them to locations. And so it's going to be a disaster. And I don't know what they're going to do with the immigration issue, because once MAGA starts learning that the illegal aliens who are here are not going to leave, the 30 million plus are never going to go. He can't even get rid of the criminal
Did you
ones.
see the new head of ICE said they're going to back off enforcement?
There should be busloads of illegal aliens, caravans, as far as the eye can see, heading south of the border, down every major freeway in America, from every major city, 24 hours a day, loaded with them, getting rid of them. But he won't do it. He can't do it. And that actually might be out of his hands, because we saw the riots when he just tried to get rid of the ones who
Democrats
were...
successfully cock-blocked ICE.
They did. They like the child molesters and the murderers and the rapists being in their community, the illegal aliens, and they're so out of touch. And it's the general public, we should understand, they don't really know what it is that's going on. But previously, at least the politicians would be somewhat honest with the general public, but they're the ones who are lying and saying that they're just rounding up your brown neighbors. We got Tampon Tim out there saying that ICE is going door to door, asking where the people of color are so that they can be rounded up.
Well, that's the only hope, is the Democrats are so horrible and so hated. Their poll numbers are even lower and still sinking, which means the whole power structure is going down the drain, and they should realize that, understand we're in the fourth turning. In closing, we just put a headline up from Politico, and I don't usually agree with Politico because they had to lie before to defend Democrats. Now they can tell the truth, and even late night comedy can now make fun of Trump. Now suddenly Saturday Night Live is funny because Trump is doing insane stuff, and I agree with the headline from Politico. Republican leadership worries Trump White House nonsense hurting them in midterms. Yeah, it's nonsense. At least 30 times he says the war is won. Dozens of times the Strait of Hormuz is open. Dozens of times he doesn't care about the Strait of Hormuz. Dozens of times they've had regime change. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's not 3D chess. So how do we get Trump off the nonsense?
Maybe we should reach Donald Trump Jr. because he is a Gen Xer. He has his finger on the pulse of America and on social media. And while we may not be able to get through to President Trump because he's not the guy who's on True Social, looking at the feeds or on Twitter, he's directing to a staff
He
member.
only cares about late night comedy, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. And I know this from Roger Stone years ago. Now it sounds like I'm saying. Roger and everybody else, when they want something done, because you can talk to Trump, it doesn't do anything. If he sees it on Fox, so they buy ads because it's cheaper, not nationally, but in D.C. or in New Jersey or in Florida, just for Fox and CNN for their political ads. People that don't know, you can just buy local. It's like 100 times cheaper. They run ads, everybody does, just to get at Trump. So it's like...
Well, actually, part of the reason is the sycophantic MAGA, they are Kool-Aid drinkers in a sense, the ones who are establishment types like the Dinesh D'Souza's, who started his podcast saying, we need to move on from the Epstein files, because these people who rely on their connection to Mar-a-Lago and to President Trump for their career boost, for their connections, and even if it's not even that, they like to go to the parties, they like to go to CPAC, they like to go to the Mar-a-Lago events. These are the people who really should be the ones telling him what's going on the ground, but they're so cowardly. They don't want to tell the emperor that he has no clothes, because then they're afraid that he's going to take it out on them. So we have these, MAGA types who have circled President Trump for their own benefit, for their own career, who are wealthy beyond what anybody could even imagine, who are the ones who are so cowardly that they can't tell him what it is that's actually going on, and instead are just parroting back what it is that he is saying instead of actually correcting him when he's wrong. And any true leader knows you have to have advisors who will point out when you are wrong, when you're going off the path. That's why the court jester is supposed to be able to tell the king what it is that other people aren't allowed to tell him.
That's right. In old France and everywhere, and with the Norman, the jester was the only person that the king wasn't allowed to execute.
Yeah, and we need somebody to be able to tell him instead of sucking up to him so that they can go to their little parties and post their little selfies and show that they're the cool people at all the MAGA parties and they're the speakers at CPAC.
But think how smart even the old European kings were. And of course, the Romans and others had soothsayers that they weren't allowed to kill because they wanted to be. Caesar had an aide that followed him around all the time saying, you're just a man, you're not a god. You're just a man, you're not a god. That's on record.
And I don't care about going to Mar-a-Lago. I mean, you know how often I turn down interviews. I've been invited on some of the biggest podcasts, and I'm just, I'm not interested in going to these parties, going to these events, rubbing elbows with a lot of these people. A lot of it's not even just about getting out the word. It's just a big ego trip. It's their conservative celebrity coalition. They like to go and post their selfies to show who they're hanging out with and who they're supposedly
it's disgusting. I know we have the same worldview. In closing, you got to come back sooner than every once a year. Mark Dice, in closing, so you've kind of hit on this. I want to be clear with all the listeners. As much as I get mad at Trump trying to get him back, and sometimes we're able to bend him back to reality, so that's our job. The Democrats running around saying, we admit we're wrong. It was all discredited, kind of what you said earlier. No, we're proud of what we did earlier. We were getting good done then. Now there's a problem. But let's just remember, the Democrats are the ones running the white supremacist groups. They're the pro-pedophile people. They're the globalist party. They are the bad guys. That's why we're mad at Trump, not going after them. Can you elaborate just briefly on that?
And if you sit out the midterms, then you are de facto giving a vote to the Democrats. It's sort of like we're in the desert, we're starving and we're thirsty, and we come across the table and there's some dirty water that's warm and has some bugs floating in it. And then there is a pile of dog poop and some urine. Okay, those are basically the choices. So it's not perfect. He's never going to be perfect. You don't have to support the man, you support the party. And no matter how much they let us down, no matter how corrupt they are, it still is better than the alternative. And it's not, you're not going to rally so many people to not vote.
And the real reform is in the Republican Party. There are a lot of good local and federal people. So, check it all and get behind the good ones. Exactly. I would say it's like moldy bread and some, water that tastes bad that isn't poison versus rotting roaches and dog crap. It's absolutely the same thing.
Actually, and I'll leave you this. Local is actually more important than federal. Your local city council, your state legislature, your mayor, your sheriff, vote local. And for those people who don't know some of those positions, you can just go and look up your Republican voter guide. So the Republican Party does put out a voter guide showing who they back, because some of these positions in local elections don't have a political party affiliation. And so you don't want to get some liberal sheriff, because the sheriffs in even certain areas of Los Angeles and other parts of Southern California would not enforce the lockdowns during COVID from Governor Newsom. And so if we can get those
sheriffs are the first thing in the Magna Carta of a real elected person for the people. The sheriff's one of the most important positions out there.
School board, city council, state legislature, mayors, governors, probably even more important, way more important than actually federal elected officials. But
yeah,
also,
I'm glad that Trump went sideways, because now we can stop obsessing on him and talk about the future.
And, I think people should to look at the importance of the midterms as well, in terms of taking on the importance of having a majority in the House and in the Senate, because if we don't, then he can't get his legislation passed, and they can impeach him and tie things up. They have subpoena
And they're
power.
going to pack the Supreme Court and do the filibuster. Yeah, we've got to work even harder in this next midterm. I disagree with Nick Fuentes. Punish the Republicans, kick them out. No way. And Nick, by the way, is on tomorrow at 1. We'll have a hearty debate on that. Mark Dice, incredible job at Mark Dice on X, Mark Dice on YouTube. Come back soon. We love you, brother.
Keep up the great work. Looking forward to seeing you on the new Alex Jones Network, with Alex Jones not skipping a beat despite everything that they've thrown at you. So
thank you, brother.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Rebecca, get the new feed. It'll switch over Friday morning at thealexjonesapp.com for Droid and Apple. It's free, and people can find it all at X at Real Alex Jones. They can go to the top of X, thank you, Mark, and you can see right there the new URL on Real Alex Jones on X for the new news website, and so much more. Hands down, this is the biggest sale in the history of InfoWars. And it just so happens Bigley lined us up for this week with all these products that just came in a month ago. And so it's fitting that at the closing of the original InfoWars, we're doing this blowout. So I looked at the sale yesterday that they were set up. I said, this is the biggest sale ever. I said, you got to call it, the Last Stand InfoWars mega blowout sale. And so this is hands down the biggest ever. This happens every month where there's a 1-week period where you can win both of the cars in the sweepstakes, the Ford Raptor and the custom H1 Hummer, $20,000 cash. Every order, every dollar spent, you put in 100 times. That's only the last week. That goes till next Friday to win these. And most people that win do it in the last week. Just a little tip. We're also giving you free $10 to use on anything at the AlexJonesStore.com. That offer ends tonight. Free InfoWars dog tag. It's a cool InfoWars limited edition dog tag. There's only 3,000 of these. For the next 3,000 orders, get one thrown in free. And I got some methylene blue on that, sorry. But if you look right here, overhead shot, you see InfoWars with the Betsy Ross flag. And on the back, stained by methylene blue, you are the resistance. So it's a cool little memento that's thrown in as well. But then it just gets even more crazy. There's a pre-sale, because you're coming in a few weeks, but for any InfoWars items, you got to get them in the next 4 days. Silver round and Faraday bag, just like the last Faraday bag that sold out in 3 days. It's the same Faraday bag, but it has the Punisher on it, saying resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. That is a huge value, and you get a limited edition InfoWars silver round coin with it for $249. These bags sell in stores for $400, $500 all day. Protects all your electronics. You can't be tracked with it. So that is so essential. Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. You are the resistance. And the limited edition final InfoWars coin. That is an amazing deal. And VIPs get it even at a lower price. And then InfoWars product fundraiser. April 30th is your last chance to get official InfoWars products. We'll still be battling them in court, but I'd say about a 90% chance that's the end of the original InfoWars logos, t-shirts, ball caps, all of it. The InfoWar is eternal and continues on, but InfoWars.com, that incarnation will be seized by the bad guys, the Bloomberg-funded vowed Satanist over at The Onion. So take advantage of that. Get all the t-shirts, ball caps, everything right now. And there's other big sales on the incredible methylene blue, bovine colostrum, methylene red, and everything else. But now is the time, a major fundraiser. And this is only running through Thursday night at midnight. And then one more day, you can be put in to win both the vehicles on Friday. So there's a lot of overlapping sales here. The $10 at checkout automatically taken off your bill. That's been running since last Thursday. That ends tonight. There's a whole bunch of sales, new sales being added every day. So be sure and check the AlexJonesStore.com. And right there on the main page, you can also watch and listen to the show and find the show at the AlexJonesStore.com. So that is a one-stop shop jump point in the fight against the globalists. So take action now. The AlexJonesStore.com. You're the reason we fought through all this and never surrendered, leaving it all in the field. And we're going to be doing reviews of the great history of InfoWars, incredible victories we've had together coming out in the next few days. But this is a victory, not a time of sorrow. We have wrecked the enemy, and we've just got it started. We'll be right back. Now go to the AlexJonesStore.com.